Yeah, I'll take a moment to talk about PGR. I very much enjoyed PGR, and before, because I might even upload this as a video, who knows? You know, opinions on PGR, who the fuck knows? But nah, PGR is a great game, and before I maybe rant, complain, who knows what I'll do in this next moment, because it's going to be all off the cuff and general opinion. I think it's great. It has a skill ceiling. It's a skill-based game. And those who are skilled at playing said skill-based game, good job. You're good at games. And what I'm saying is not to be like make the game easier, but I think some things kind of garbage sometimes. Sometimes in the combat. Like most gacha games, I'm not a fan of the UI. For some reason, just some UIs sometimes just don't hit it with me. And it's one of those ones that if you know where you're clicking, maybe it's fine, but I think it's just like really right side heavy. It's kind of like you've got a I know I'm playing HSR whilst I'm talking about PGR. I do apologize. We're just here at the moment, but the right side of PGR's UI is like just dense of buttons, and most of the buttons like aren't really conventionally named, like R&D. What the fuck, man? Like just call it something simpler. Just call it Gaba, the Gamba, something like that. It's just weird. A lot of the things are just named weird, and you got some certain like important buttons I think are a lot smaller than they should be, like the members button. I'm not sure why that's at like the bottom of the screen, hidden away essentially. Not really hidden away, but it's at the bottom of the screen. I confuse what button is it? I think it's the... I can probably just launch up the game and talk about it more personally there, but so the right side of the UI, and the UI is just kind of a pain in the ass to navigate, kind of like Honkai Impacts, kind of like not Eversouls. Which one was it? I think it was it might have been Eversoul then. I'm not sure. There was another one that we played recently that I was just like, yeah, the UI is just kind of not doing it for me. And let me launch up the game so I can actually reference it instead of just talking out of my ass. But yeah, that's like one of the first hurdles. Just kind of like just weird stuff. It's got a lot of buttons, and it's just kind of something that happens with a lot of gacha games. They don't usually fix it. You know, maybe it's also being spoiled by the kind of the natural UI of something like HSR and Genshin, where it's like the UI is your characters on the screen and then just walking around, and then you pull up a side panel, which then again is densely packed with buttons. I'm not sure why gacha games really love densely packing together 700 buttons and you have to just fucking figure it out. I'm not sure why that's really a thing, but it's a thing. Other than that, another thing that I'm not a fan of is just like just when you're fighting, right? When you're fighting, it's great. The fighting's smooth. I've uploaded some shorts of just how satisfying the fighting is. Like you're just in there focusing and it feels great, dodging, hitting, comboing, jumping and whatnot. But you know, sometimes like seeing things is fun, right? Sometimes visuals are cool, especially when you want to dodge those said visuals that are coming at you in high speeds. And I just think it's somewhat counterintuitive to have such high particle density and such high visual like sparks and shit, and then also not make the telegraphs super visible. Sometimes your effects can completely nullify the visuals of the telegraph. But I'll touch on that in just a second. So we're in PGR. Just the right side of the screen is densely packed. I'm not a massive fan of like super densely packed screens. It is all kind of simplified. It's all very thematic. I like it. It's all great theme. R&D, just call it gacha, rolling, pulling, something like that. Wishy. R&D is not a transferable term. Everything else is kind of fine. Just a lot of buttons everywhere though. You can kind of put this in an events tab. This is all events, you know, slap it over here with the reward events. It would be fine. Everything else is mostly fine. Slap this in the events tab. Slap whatever the fuck this is in the events tab. Put everything in one tab, kind of separate things. Put this in the events tab. Put everything in like similar. You know, you just do it. It's simple. I've said this about Honkai. I've said about Honkai. Said about a lot of games. Just simplify shit. Like nobody needs everything on the main menu. You really don't. Like if people are impeded by the fact that they have to press a drop-down menu to then get it to another menu, sucks to suck, done it. But over bloating is literally the main problem that gacha games have. And it's the reason that a lot of people usually quit by seeing this screen. They're like, oh shit, 70 buttons? Oh my god, what do they all do? They click on them, they don't know what it does, and they're like, oh, too confusing, leave, right? It's a reason why gacha games sometimes don't get that many players. But other than that, that's great. I think the visuals of it is fine. It's all very thematic. It feels like, what's that game that I played with the auto combat? It came out last year, or this year, sometime last year, this year, somewhere around there. We played it for a bit. Astral something, Cerebral Circuit, Central Circuit. I can't remember what it's called. It had, I got the Hubble telescope as a character or whatever, the Hubble telescope. Regardless, I don't know, doesn't matter. But one thing I do like about PGR, before we get back to the combat, is I think its events are cool. Like, if I can figure out how to get there, it was this thingy. I like this, it's a fun little game mode. I don't know if it's like an important thing, but I like this little event. It kind of shows that they go above and beyond. As well as, if I can find it again, here, and then events. Winter sequence, although I've read some comments, I think on Twitter, that this is not like a dearly beloved event. I think it's cool. I think conceptually it's really cool. It's like a tower defense. It's not incredible, but conceptually I like it. I like, you know, conceptually I can acknowledge that it's pretty interesting, but execution-wise, maybe could be better. You know, maybe actually make a tower defense instead of just putting down some random towers weirdly with some weird keybinds, and then you have to attack the enemies to actually kill them. But that's just neither here nor there. And a few other things are kind of interesting. You know, a lot of it, again, I don't get really, because it all just is, kind of feels like you're just doing stages for an event, but also not really. It's kind of hard to describe. But I think overall it's fine. I think the game's great. Items-wise, I'm not sure if maybe it's a current thing. I'm not sure why the fuck these are polluting my inventory. I'm really not sure. I just don't know. I just don't know why this is a thing. I know you open it and get money or something. Maybe just put them as one stack and then you can use them all in one go. Because I'm not opening 70,000 boxes. You know what I mean? I'm just not doing that. It's not going to be a thing I do. What else do I usually comment on before we get back to the combat? Because I do want to touch on the combat a bit more. Battle Pass is cool. Daily login bullshit. This is a very cool feature that they do have. They have a week-by-week following of when certain things are happening. More gacha games need to do this. I think I've only encountered Eversoul that does this previously, where they have a schedule for the week of how much longer certain events have to go. So we can tell here, if we take a look at, it's Sunday today. Oh well, this event, Babel Tower Ruins of Nothingness, will continue till Sunday. And then on Sunday, though, we'll get something else called the Unobserved, which is great. Just have this, you know, I don't really want to sit down and try to calculate, you know, the game tells me, you know, on the 13th we'll have this. And it's like, okay, what's the 13th? Oh, it's a Saturday. Oh, okay, but then it goes to the 14th. It's like, oh, well, that's one day, obviously. And it goes to the 29th. It's like, oh, how many days is that? Okay, I've got 2 weeks. It's like, oh, yeah. Just show me the fucking timeline, you know? And this also saves content creators from having to create their own thing. Like, not that content creators are probably, like, sad that they don't have to create their own thing. They probably are thriving because it helps people understand and they get viewership through it. But, like, if you can make it easier for a content creator to do shit, why the fuck not, you know? I don't do this stuff either way. I'm talking about more so, like, Marissa and what that fuck. He does this for Honkai. If Honkai did it themselves, it'd be fucking great. But that's a totally different point in itself. What else? Everything here is fine. I think this is all mostly fine. I don't really have an opinion on this part. It's like, I don't like that these units are nerfed in most stages. I think it's kind of redundant to give yourself a good unit and then fucking nerf it. Like 60% damage reduction is like, yo, bro, fuck yourself. Just give me a good unit if you're going to give it for free rather. But yeah, the combat, I don't want to actually get into a stage because then I have to like focus on the combat. But essentially, the combat is extremely fun. I like the combat. It's fun. It's great. Cool. Interactive. Responsive. Visually nice to look at. When you get the execution properly, and if you calculate everything nicely, and if you play correctly, and if you do everything nice, and if everything aligns up, the moon is blue, the stars are in a line, it's the shape of a nice piece of bread or something. I don't know. If everything goes well, the combat is probably some of the best combat you can ever experience in a game. Maybe the only game that could top it is literally a fighter. You know, maybe like if you pull off a fucking sick move in Tekken or something, that's probably the only thing that can top it. But other than that, if the thing doesn't go well and if shit gets fucked up, it's also miserable, right? If you overuse your dodges, it's honestly just the worst experience in the world. If you get stunned, staggered, or fucked up, it's fucking terrible because then recovering is the slowest process in the world. If you get knocked down, dude, if you're in the horizontal fucking plane, getting back up to the vertical position, you may as well go make a cup of tea because your character takes so fucking long to stand up. It's kind of miserable, really. It's ridiculous. What else is there? And then, yeah, what I was talking about with the visual fidelity and the graphics. Maybe it's because I'm playing, I think, on the highest possible settings because PC launcher and whatnots it's. But, like, sometimes the graphics just do cover all of the visuals on the ground. It's like, literally, you just can't see shit. Specifically with certain characters. Obviously, not every character does this. But if I can find my way to the members section. This lady, 21. Just once you start doing her shit, once you start with her, you may as well just turn your eyes off, maybe monitor off as well, and it'll be the same effect as trying to dodge. It's not really that, and especially once you have the combo going. Obviously not if you just spam and attacks like but if you got the combo going, you got the juice flowing, you're not seeing anything, right? You're not seeing it. Maybe it's not a thing for all characters, but at least for the ones that I haven't experienced, it's a thing. And then also at the same time, I'm going to put in a bit of a personal preference note here. I'm just not a sci-fi guy. I'm just not a science fiction kind of dystopian future kind of guy. I like it as a concept. I think it's fine for people who like it. It's like an opinion-based thing. It's not a detriment to the game. And that's probably the reason I probably won't continue to play the game much in the future. Like lightsabers, I don't think there's much visual difference between a lot of the items in the game. Like if we go into the shop, I talked about it earlier in the stream. If we go into the shop and we look at the... Where is it? The weapons. To me, the difference between the inverse shadow and the Sirius is one is slightly brighter. Don't really see that as an interesting bit of design choice, you know what I mean? You know? I would, you know, maybe make one look like a cleaver, I don't know, maybe a scimitar, something like that. That's why I usually tend to go to fantasy games, like medieval style. You can actually make a scimitar and then a claymore and then a Zweihander, say a rapier, like something like that. Kind of have a bit of visual difference. All these swords look the same to me, except just one is red, one is orange, one is white, one is blue, one is yellow. So it's like, just a personal preference, not a huge dystopian sci-fi kind of guy. But apart from that being a completely opinion-based game, if you're into a high skill ceiling game, if you're into literally the pinnacle of like combat gaming in a 3D like based world with gacha elements and a story that I didn't really follow, but it looks to be somewhat interesting at some points, not all the points. Sometimes it's just a bit of like a, hey, how you going? Oh, my day was nice kind of situation. Punishing Great Ravens is for you. It's great. I didn't really get to experience its like super high-end game because we're only like level 58 and we are like at chapter 7. But it's like what is it? Punishing Room? Phantom Pain Cage. That's the boss rush of mode, which is great. I think this is a great boss rush mode. At later stages, you get more bosses. Pardon me. And the difficulty, even at like basic whatever the fuck, is pretty interesting. You know, haven't really cleared a hell guy yet. I probably should have attempted it, but I didn't. You know, it's tough. You need to learn the bosses. It's quite fun to do. Again, rewarding in this game. I didn't really know what the fuck I was getting half the time. Warzone, the other one. This one's interesting, but it's just 3 stages. I think the point of it is just to be quick and concise. It's not 3 stages. It's 6 stages across a few days, from my understanding. Don't know how it works either, but it's like 6 stages across 2 days or something like that because you have a daily unlock and whatnot. So it's pretty fun. It's interesting, but again, because it's not the highest difficulty, I'm not going to try to talk about its competitiveness. I'm sure there's many more intellectual people that can comment on the craziness of it. But one system that I didn't like from this tab, personally didn't like, is the Recitativo de Fantasia, or whatever you want to call it. I wasn't really a fan of this. I know it's like a roguelike, Elysian Realm, you know, pick up items and buff yourself in weird ways kind of system. It's just too long. Just too long. I think I was in a run for like 30 to 40 minutes. Just don't really feel like being in a run for 30 to 40 minutes, where the end result is going to be very, very minute rewards, because they were very, very minute rewards. So, yeah, I wasn't really melding with this game mode, but that's maybe a me thing. Maybe I started very late, and it's like a thing you have to grind out. It definitely is a thing that you have to grind out, but it's fine, you know? If you're into it, if you're into the combat, like, super hard, and you can fathom to go through the motions, and you know, you like the long-winded, like, modes and whatnot, if you're into that, 10 out of 10. It'll be a 10 out of 10 system for you. Just not really for me. I like quick and concise things, you know? That's why I sometimes complain that, you know, Memorial Arena, sorry, the Elysian Realm and the Genshin Spiral Abyss can sometimes take a bit too long. I like quick and concise things where a bit of skill is required, or more so skill is required, but it's also not too long. I don't want to spend 30,000 years in one video game that is not really designed to be spent 30,000 years into it, right? You know, if I want to spend 30,000 years in a game, I'll go play an MMO. They're designed for that. I don't think gacha games are designed for that. But that's probably a rant. I'm not sure. I'll probably upload this as a review or some shit. Maybe not a review, but like I played PGR for the first time. Here are my thoughts or some shit like that. And it's a great game. I don't know. There's literally like very few things that I would classify are fundamentally wrong with it. I just think there's a lot of personal preference. I really do. You know, it's not like a classic thing like Genshin Impact where there's just nothing to do at the end game, right? It's nothing like that. It's just not for me. Not my choice of the year, you know, not my preference. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to critique the game any more than I have already. So if that has sufficed as enough as of a critique rather, we'll move on.